Here's something nobody will say to your face. You don't actually miss being a child. You think you do. You feel it sometimes, genuinely, deeply, usually on a Sunday evening when the week ahead feels heavy and the weekend already feels gone. You see a kid running through a sprinkler or you hear a song from 20 years ago and something aches. Something quiet and specific. You call it missing childhood. You tell people you wish you could go back. But here's the truth nobody says out loud. If you could actually go back, not visit, not observe, but fully return, you wouldn't last a week. Not because childhood wasn't real, not because it didn't hold beautiful things, but because the actual experience of being a child, stripped of the soft glow your memory has painted over it, was far more complicated, far more powerless, and far more confusing than the version you carry around. And the gap between what childhood actually was and what you feel when you miss it, that gap is one of the most fascinating things about how the human mind works. So let's pull it apart. Because what you're actually missing is something far more specific, far more honest, and far more useful to understand than a past you can never return to. Let's start with time. Because everything begins here. Do you remember how long summer used to feel? Not a season, an era. An endless stretch of days with no floor and no ceiling. You could fit entire lifetimes into a single July. And now, you blink and it's October. You blink again and a year is gone. People joke about it, but it isn't a joke. It's one of the most disorienting things about being alive, and science has a precise explanation for why it happens. When you were a child, almost everything was new. Your brain was encountering the world for the very first time. First bike ride, first best friend, first time staying up past midnight. Every single experience demanded your brain's full attention. And when the brain works hard to process something genuinely new, it creates dense, rich, detailed memories. Memories that feel long because they are packed with texture and meaning. Researchers studying time perception have documented this precisely. A child's brain, moving through a largely novel world, encodes time as expansive. There is simply more in each day worth storing. An adult brain, running routines it has executed hundreds of times, barely records the passing hours at all. Your commute doesn't get remembered. Your Tuesday doesn't get remembered. Entire months dissolve because your brain scanned them and decided, nothing new here, moving on. So the first thing you're genuinely missing is not childhood itself. You're missing the feeling of time that had actual weight. Days that felt like they happened. A present moment that was fully present instead of blurring into the background hum of a life running on autopilot. That's the surface. Now let's go deeper. Think about what a child's day actually felt like. Not your edited, softened memory of it. The raw experience of being 7 years old on an ordinary Tuesday. Someone else decided when you woke up. Someone else chose what you wore. Someone else drove you to a place you were required to be for 6 hours, where an adult you didn't choose told you what to sit still and absorb. You couldn't leave when you felt like it. You couldn't decide the day wasn't working for you. If something humiliating happened in front of 30 peers, a wrong answer called out loud, a nickname that stuck, there was no escape. You had to walk back into that same room the next morning. For years. The decisions that shaped your life were made entirely without you. Where you lived, what school you attended, what the family was going through. These conversations happened above your head in rooms you weren't allowed to enter. You were, in almost every domain that mattered, completely without power. And here's what psychologists keep finding, the thing that surprises people most. Children carry enormous amounts of anxiety, confusion, and helplessness. They simply don't have the language to name it. The social world of childhood is not trivial. To a child's nervous system, whether you are accepted or quietly excluded, whether people like you or don't, those stakes feel enormous. Rejection at age 8 does not feel smaller than rejection at 35. It often feels larger because there is no perspective yet that says this will pass. There is no other world to escape into. And yet, when you remember it now, the edges are soft. The sharp parts have been quietly removed. This is called the fading affect bias. The emotional charge attached to painful memories fades significantly faster than the memory itself. Your brain keeps the golden afternoons and quietly discards the confusion, the powerlessness. The times you felt completely lost with no way to explain it. It has been editing your childhood for decades, and by now, the edit is masterful. So what are you actually missing? If it isn't the powerlessness, not the lack of autonomy, not the confusion, what is the ache pointing toward? Three things. And every single one of them is available to you right now. The first is novelty. That feeling of time having weight, of days being long and real, was a direct product of encountering the world as new. The brain physically expands its encoding of time when it processes something it hasn't seen before. Which means every time you try something genuinely unfamiliar, take a route you've never walked, have a conversation you've never had, go somewhere that demands your full attention, you are recreating the neurological experience of childhood time. You are not too old for firsts. You have simply, gradually, stopped seeking them. And time has accelerated in direct proportion to how predictable you've allowed your days to become. The second is presence. Children are not more alive because they are young. They are more alive because they are not somewhere else while they are living. A child playing is entirely playing, not playing while composing a mental to-do list, not playing while processing last Thursday's argument, not playing while monitoring a phone. Just there, completely, without reservation. What adults identify as the magic of childhood is not, at its root, about being young. It is about the experience of being completely inside a moment. That is not something age takes from you. It is something distraction takes from you. And distraction, unlike age, is something you can actually do something about. The third is unself-consciousness. Children move through the world without first calculating how they appear while doing it. They sing without auditioning their own voice. They ask questions without checking whether the question sounds intelligent enough. They fall down and get back up without constructing a story about what falling means. At some point in the long process of becoming an adult, most people quietly trade that quality away, that unheld, unself-conscious aliveness, in exchange for dignity and composure and the appearance of having things under control, and then spend the rest of their lives with an ache they can't quite locate, missing something they handed over so gradually they never noticed it leaving. Here is the whole truth, plainly stated. You do not miss being a child. You miss being present. You miss time that felt long and real. You miss moving through the world without the accumulated weight of everything you now know about it. You miss a version of yourself that hadn't yet learned that being fully, openly alive was something to manage and contain. None of that is sealed inside a childhood you cannot return to. Every single one of those things is a choice available to you today. Not as a grand transformation, in the smallest, most immediate sense. A walk without anything playing in your ears. A meal eaten without a screen running alongside it. A question asked because you genuinely want to know the answer. A single Tuesday that gets remembered because you put something new inside it. The child you miss wasn't free because they were young. They were free because they hadn't yet decided that being completely alive was something to be embarrassed about. You still know how to do this. You just forgot that you knew.